All right, we're live. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks again for being willing to do this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for for everything you've done.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely. Help us both. Um, so like I was saying, I feel like you're a great client because you kind of had some complicated things,
Mm,
tried to get some help, and then you weren't really able to find the relief. But through kind of unconventional methods of tapping
mm,
into the needs of your nervous system, we got you back to doing what you enjoy doing.
yep.
So I wanted to interview you and ask you a few questions so other people could like hopefully get inspired and see what's possible for them too.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to help.
Okay, awesome. So maybe we could start with what you were dealing with that led you to reaching out to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had, you know, sort of minor accidents like throughout my life, like horse riding accidents, skiing accidents, like when I was a kid. So I always had, like dislocated shoulder, injured knees, those kind of things. So, and then things kind of took a more neurological turn back in 2016. I got what they suspected was Zika, but was never really diagnosed. So a viral kind of illness, early 2016. And unfortunately, I got neurological complications. After that, I was hospitalized for a while and had loss of sensation. So, proprioceptive deficits. I couldn't, for example, touch my nose, with like my eyes closed, like my left side, I just couldn't touch my nose. I was struggling to walk with my left leg, like my left leg would be a lot weaker. Um, the main, there was also pain associated with that. So I would get sort of like shooting pains from my arm down to, all along my arm down to my fingers. I would get shooting pains in my legs, like somebody was kind of stabbing or punching my leg, which obviously is very unpleasant. And that would get worse with stress. So I'm a veterinarian, and that kind of involved me, being on my feet, 10 to 12 hours a day, and obviously the stress levels would just make it worse. And I couldn't sleep, and then then the stress would get worse, and it was just like the snowball effect.
Mhm.
And so multiple times, this actually started when I lived in the UK, and I did have to cut back on the number of days that I was working, which obviously isn't great. And then moved here to the US, and that stress from me moving and everything kind of made it go worse again. And I unfortunately could only work part-time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like that also like impacted my life a little bit, well, quite a lot. I would wake up in the middle of the night, with the pain. And then so that's kind of,
Is that it?
what was going on.
Yeah. That's a hefty list. It's a
Yeah.
hefty list. So obviously this impacted your quality of life, but you're kind of an athlete in your own way.
Yeah.
So how did this kind of translate into things that you enjoyed doing but had difficulty with as a result?
Yes. Yeah. So like I really enjoy, like hiking and, like, I mean, I used to cycle a lot in the UK, and then we moved to California, I started surfing.
Uh,
And so those are all, things I really enjoyed doing. But for example, like with the surfing is for like the first year and a half that I was kind of learning, I was getting really frustrated because I could never like pop up on a board. And obviously that's kind of the main thing of surfing. I mean, I could paddle fine, but that getting up, I couldn't actually bring my left leg forward because it
mm,
was just like the weakness, and then my leg wasn't stable enough on the board for me to be able to put weight, to kind of direct the board. So that was the biggest drawback. And obviously it's frustrating because you're seeing, other people like that are the same
sure.
level as you starting out, and they're like popping up, and you're just like, why can't I do this? I
Yeah.
even changed my stance. So I went from like sort of the regular to like goofy, with my right foot in front because that's my stronger
Uh,
leg. But then I still couldn't put weight on my left leg, like really like grounded. And then even hiking got difficult. Like I would have to, sometimes when my legs would get tired, I would almost be like pushing on my left leg to like kind
lift
of
you up.
to like push up, to go uphill, especially. and my legs would like wobble when I would be going downhill, and did a bit of hiking, but I couldn't do it regularly because even yoga, like I used to do a lot of yoga. I mean, I'm now doing a lot more yoga now, but I had to be a bit more careful with what I was able to do. And I could always feel, like the balancing things. If it was on the left leg, that whole left leg would just start to really shake. Left arm as well. I would be doing certain poses and things, and I just could not hold myself up with my left arm, especially. So
yeah. Okay. So it had serious kind of medical things that happened with you, fall, virus, pain, balance, other things, and then it translated into, not only just being able to walk around and sleep well and, be okay at work, but other, fun hobbies as well.
Yeah.
So what did you try before we got together? What are the different things that you tried and explored to try to get some help or some relief?
Yeah, so back when it started, so when I was still in the UK, I went to, I went to physio, to try and help with kind of strengthening. So my left side, and actually I did that again when I had the flare-up episode after I moved here. And, that kind of like while you're doing it, it kind of like helps for the like those few weeks that you're doing it,
Sure.
doing certain exercises and kind of like, strengthening the muscles. But unfortunately, like that it never really took the nerve pain away. Like that never really went away. So for that, one of the things that I had started, after in the UK as well, was taking things like, gabapentin, amitriptyline, but unfortunately, they even gave me at some point like diazepam, but then I was really getting loopy and it just really didn't agree with me. Like I would just lose days, like being zombie-like, which obviously is not great. And I couldn't work while I was on those medications. I can't do surgery. I couldn't do surgery while I was on those medications, and so I had to stop taking those. But then that, like just your normal anti-inflammatories, obviously I'm not touching sides for that. And when I moved here, the neurologist put me on like duloxetine, which I had a very severe reaction to, ended up in the ER. So like none of that stuff, I couldn't really take any of those things. So really the only thing was, I even tried like, CBD was one of the things that I had tried, and that helped more for like the stress, but not really the, not really like the deep pain that I was getting. So yeah.
Okay, just one or two things.
Yeah. And obviously, like I'm a veterinarian, so like I had like the kind of scientific approach.
Yeah, you're
of, like,
familiar with all that.
Like I know, like we use those drugs in animals as well, and so and obviously I understand the like pathophysiology behind what was kind of happening, but it was trying to figure out like, well, okay, this sort of like more what would you call it? Like like sort of normal medicine like isn't going to cut it, and that's when like physio came into it, things like that. But that didn't quite result in like long-term solution. It wasn't like long-term solutions.
Okay. So contrasting the work that we've done together, like what was your experience working with me?
So I mean, it was actually like I stumbled upon you actually through like there was a Facebook event, because I'm part of quite a few like chronic pain Facebook groups, and so I think your event that you had online like popped up, and I was intrigued, and then you gave you had a sort of a talk going with sort of the the pencil exercise and like doing the eye push-ups with the pencil. So I remember that, and I was just like, I really appreciated like, your story as well, like that you actually had gone through like, those things yourself, and kind of explaining how you essentially like rewiring your brain to, because of the pain. I mean, there was, if I can't block it, then there's got to be a different way for my, I have to do something else for my brain to change. And it was really, I really enjoyed like the way that you were explaining things, and kind of this I mean, and also working with you, afterwards, I drove to, I'm in San Jose, so I drove to Oakland. We met in person once, and the rest of the time we were able to do it remotely, which I thought was awesome, because then I didn't have to be, drive. I mean, it's much more accessible,
Sure.
to like kind of reach a wider, scope of people, because I think definitely, there's a lot of people that have these kind of chronic pains, and it would be super helpful. And you were really easy to work with, because it was like, okay, cool, like I'm working on those days, I can't meet on those days, but I'm off that day, and you were able to accommodate that. Even when I was in Hawaii, like on vacation, we could meet,
Get you
which
ready
was
for
great.
that surfing.
Exactly. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did that pre-surf workout on, just before New Year's, which was great. I caught some amazing waves, so that was really fun.
Oh yeah, that 30-footer, right?
Oh, not quite.
Maybe you can say just like a moment, or like an example or two of like the things that we did to help you, because
Yeah.
it's not like what we do. It's not like physical therapy, and it's not like going to, physio or what have you. And so I think a lot of people just are kind of like curious.
Yeah. What do we do? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what helped you?
So, well, kind of like the way that especially like the first few appointments that we had, what was really nice is kind of assessing what worked for me and what didn't work for me. I mean, not necessarily didn't work, but like didn't have that much of an improvement. So we were doing exercises and kind of reassessing. I remember the hand, assessments, but also the fact that you took into account what was my goal, essentially, and taking the time to talk about the medical history, what I wanted to be able to do, what I wasn't able to do, and then kind of like one of the assessments was doing the surf pop-ups, which and then the balancing, which is very important, for me, everyday life, but also like in surfing, because that's kind of my goal, was to be able to pop up reliably on my board. So that's doing those sessions. We were doing sort of the exercises, the repetitions, and then reassessing and seeing, okay, is that working? Is that having an improvement on my balance, on the pain? I would have sometimes pain in my knee, so kind of doing those exercises, it would like kind of relief, that pain, that sharp pain. I remember like even brushing on certain joints to
help.
I was
just going to ask, what's the strangest exercise we did that helped you?
Definitely that like hairbrush. So
I've
got very long hair, so I have like a lot of hairbrushes, and I have also like sort of pain in my knee from this skiing accident that I had when I was a kid. So when I stand for long periods of time, like it does hurt, and that like doing that brush exercise, sort of like brushing all over my elbow, helps to kind of relieve that tension. And it's not just like it's for 5 minutes. It's like then I'm good for the rest of the day, or like even a few days after.
Brushing the right elbow to help left knee pain.
So that was cool. And but also it was, what was really nice is like not focusing on the area that's painful, because obviously that just kind of reinforces the pain, but being able to like do an exercise in a different part of your body, that kind of like those vestibular exercises or cerebellar exercises, you identify that's what helped me the most, with that nerve pain. And like now I can actually like touch my nose with my eyes closed. So like I couldn't do, there's no way I could do this with my left hand before. I mean, I would land here or here, and it would be like really staggery movements. And so I don't have a party trick anymore, but
you've made great progress. You've made great progress. Maybe you could say now like how you feel from like what benefits have you gotten from this kind of approach to helping your pain and everything.
So definitely, just from like a everyday life, I'm able to go for like walks every day without my left leg getting painful and tired and tight. And actually something else I noticed, it's been quite cold like this past week. And I used to get really painful, like left leg and left feet, like my left foot, not left feet, left toes, would get like really painful. Like I would have, like it would almost be like numbing pain from the cold. And like I haven't had that as bad this winter, which has been really good as well. And that's been for years. I've had that for years, and it's been the first winter in years that it's improved. But yeah, being able to go for walks every day. We're going for hikes every weekend. But like, we were in Pinnacles, which is like a pretty hefty uphill hike. And my leg felt strong. I didn't feel weak on my left side. I didn't have to like, sometimes I would have to even like push my leg, to be able to go uphill when I was hiking. And like, I haven't had to do that for probably about the past 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. I haven't had to do that. I've been able to surf, like actually pop up. Like in one session, I think it doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, it was a lot compared to what I had before. Like I would catch like,
Sure.
so probably about like 6 to 8, like decent sized waves. I'm able to do like 100-meter, I have no idea what that is in feet, 100 yards, more or less, like 100-meter, like waves, and actually standing on the board in like unbroken, waves, which I haven't been able to do like ever. And like just gardening,
awesome.
doing yoga, like being able to exercise multiple times a week, because my body actually feels good, which has helped with like the COVID weight, so that's been good too. And then so next week I'm actually starting a new job, and I used to be able to only really work like 2-3 days a week, and I'm going to go back to like full-time in the veterinary world is 4 days a week. So it's like you work 10 to 12-hour days. So I'm going to go back to actually working full-time, probably for the first time it's been about 5 years that I haven't worked full-time.
Wow, you've said so many good things. You said so many amazing things. Yeah, I'm really happy for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
So, and I think it's really thanks to to you and just being able to like meet, like being effortless about meeting. I think was a big thing for me. It's like, okay, cool. Like I'm like doing some gardening in the morning, and then we can like meet for an hour, and then I don't have to, so that was super helpful. And also like just kind of it's like easy exercises as well. It's not something where you're like, oh, this is going to take me like ages to do. It's like, okay, cool. I could even do this when I was sometimes even at work, like when I was sitting at my desk, I could do like the thumb exercises. Quick and drill. Like just do that in the car when I was stopped at the traffic light, obviously, or like just like I would have driven to like the store, and then I would be in the car and kind of like doing those before going in. I probably didn't do them like 3 times a day, but like
enough
I think,
to feel better. To feel better. Yeah, that's great.
So
that's great. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you feel like is important to share about your story that would resonate with other people who may have some type of similar issues that they're dealing with, but maybe they're reluctant to get going. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to share.
I mean, there's for me, like, obviously like coming from a medical background, you read a lot of like, sort of like what I call like voodoo things, and like like oh, how is this working, and like is it a scam, like what's going on, things like that. And I actually felt, even the first time I met you, I was just like, no, this makes sense. Like it actually makes physiological sense, which is what I really appreciated it. And it also like, you didn't promise me a miracle cure. It wasn't like, okay, this is going to be like, you're going to have to put in the work, we're going to have to take the time, we're going to have to do the exercises, but it's not something that's like, like you don't have to commit 3 hours a day to this. It was really sort of short and sweet, which I really appreciated, because as I said, I was busy, and especially at the beginning, tired, because I was painful, like stressed out, and so just being able to take those little bits of time, I definitely think it's one of the things that I'm the happiest that I've done, in the last few months. I mean, we started, I think the first time we met was like maybe October, I think it was October, November, and then by like New Year's, it was we were meeting every 2 or 3 weeks. So again, it's not, it's not a huge time commitment to make actually such a big change in your life. And I never thought I was going to be able to like be pain-free like ever, because I've been dealing with this for almost 6 years. And I was just like, this is my life now. Even my husband says, like, we were talking about it the other day, and he's like, yeah, I haven't said anything about being in pain for a couple of months. So he's super impressed with that.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
He's seeing a huge difference as well. He's seeing a huge difference in just like how happy I am, because I love being outside, doing things, being active, and like that's made a big difference. So thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. All right,
cool.
Thanks so much, Meline.
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate that, and I'm glad you're feeling so much better.
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, thanks to you.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think I'm gonna press stop.